Hey you guys, today we're going to do a little knife sharpening. I'm going to use a 1 grit stone, just a fine stone, and we're going to try to just revitalize the edge of my 8-inch Chicago cutlery knife. So let's put a little edge on this blade. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I can feel it. If you run your finger along that edge, you can feel indentions in places where the blade's just not consistent. Just be real gentle, not put too much pressure or you'll cut yourself. You just gotta run it lightly across there. Especially when you know this knife's dull. If you get this thing razor sharp, man, you gotta be super careful or you will mess yourself up. But I can feel where there's dull spots right there, right there. So like on the main wear place, of this rounded part of the blade, as you're going down, this is the place where it's going to get worn the fastest. And we're not going to put a major blade on this thing, but we're just going to try to get a little consistency on this edge so it'll sharpen up nice. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to work some of these spots and try to just get some of that. There's just you can feel it, and there's a roughness to that edge. And I'm going to work a little of that out. I'm going to work on one side, and I'm going to rotate, and I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to work on the other side and rotate. And then what we're going to do is you're going to take those micro edges, and you're kind of warping them to one way or the other as you work that down. So we're going to do one side, then the other side, and then we're going to bring both sides true. And make sure you keep a 20% grade. I mean, there are different grades, sushi, if you're doing sushi, you kind of want a 15% grade, and that's from the knife to the stone, right there. So you're creating an angle. That's good for cutting meat. 15% is 15 to 20% is what I would suggest. You don't want to be too far up like that. You don't want to be too down. You want to be just like so. 15 to 20% grade. And I'm just rotating this thing. Just trying to recreate a nice edge. Take away all the indentions and rough spots where you've gouged out some of the blade or some of the tip of the blade. That's a little better. Keep going. A little bit more. This is not this is more of a fine stone right here that I'm using. So it would take a lot of work, but we're just trying to create a little better edge than we had before. All right, let's flip this thing over and go the other way. It's just about being consistent, like most things in life. You just got to be consistent with that shape. It's already a little bit better right there. All right, now we're just going to stroke it out. So you just want to rotate through the whole thing, and then we're going to flip each and every time, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to take that micro edge. There's a very fine edge on the tip of this knife. And what happens when you stone or steel too much to one side, you're basically pushing that micro edge over. We want to stand it up. Every time you run it on something, it starts to bend that edge over. So now what we're going to try to do is just true up that edge, and then we'll give it a good steel. And then we'll use it to cut meat. And at first, especially if you're going to use one grit stone like I'm doing, which is the fine stone, I would go with a little more pressure at first. And then what you do is you start to lighten your pressure as you feel like you're getting to your desired sharpness. When I steel, I always steel out, personally. Just what I prefer. You're always steeling out and away from you. It's very safe if you're sitting on the walk and you have somebody next to you. You're not going down to your sides or anything, you're just going right out in front of you. Oh, now you've got some grab to it. That is great. That is great. Just like that.